Today, we become legends.
Today's Titan Talk went over some balance hotfixes that have gone live and will be going live soon to address outliers on the new patch, as well as questions about Slash, Janus, the Agility Relic, and the next two gods coming to the game. So without further ado, let's jump in. First up, Kilgoon said they've been generally pretty happy with how the patch is being received so far. This is obviously a big change, but players seem to be having a lot of fun, and they've seen a dramatic increase in healing gods play rate due to people trying out the new items, and potentially due to some of the new items and specific healing gods being overtuned. Speaking of, there has been a few balance changes already deployed via hotfixes alongside some bug fixes, so let's cover those first. They fixed camera, targeting, and reticle settings resetting to default after every game, Huyi's 2 not revealing stealth gods, Mulan's 2 not triggering healing items, and Thanatos passive and 1 also not triggering healing items. In another patch, they've also fixed Huyi's 2 with higher intelligence than strength, now properly not applying the bonus damage as it should, but applying the longer stun and stronger slow. They fixed the store not properly focusing to the inventory when on controller. They fixed Cupid's 2 mana heal not working, and they also fixed aspects not updating in the lobby when re-rolling at assault, as well as Sanguine Lash's damage not displaying correctly in the damage recap. Moving into the small balance update for this hotfix though, Sanguine Lash has taken a big nerf with the base max health damage going down from 2% to 1%, the cooldown reduction per tick going down from 5 seconds to 3, and the base cooldown of the active effect going up from 90 seconds to 100. The item will also now deal half damage to objectives, which is great as it was doing far too much to them before. Chuck's aspect specifically has received a nerf, where his 2 now has 2 max stacks of protections instead of 4 from base Chuck. Hercules 3 now heals for less on the damage return heal and also grants less protections from items, and Guan's heal now heals allies for 75% of the initial heal instead of the full amount. They also discussed some potentially planned balance changes that they're looking at making soon. These aren't live yet and might not necessarily go live exactly as stated here, but they're things they're looking at changing very soon. First up is a Death's Embrace nerf to its healing from 1.4% to 1% max health, and its lifesteal from 10% to 7.5%, which makes sense as this was not addressed in the initial wave of healing nerfs to items, mainly because it wasn't being used very much back then, but has emerged as a very popular choice after the patch for obvious reasons. Vital Amplifier will be getting its base attack speed on the item nerf from 20% to 10%, the passive attack speed will remain the same though. Brawler's Beat Stick is being looked at as well, which makes sense. This item is sword busted right now as a general stat stick, considering there is almost always multiple healing abilities going off around you in a team fight. This is getting a base strength and int nerf as well as a passive strength and int nerf, bringing down the base by 5 of each and the passive down by 4 of each. They are also taking off 5 of the protections from the passive as well, so when the passive is fully procced on this item, it is losing 9 strength or intelligence and 5 of each protections. Gluttonous Grimoire is going from 10% lifesteal to 7.5%. Devourer's Gauntlet is going from 0.5 strength per stack to 0.4, which is 37.5 down to 30 at 75 stacks. And the Evolved Lifesteal bonus is going down from 5% to 3%. Contagion's health regen is going down from 8 to 6, and the duration that Contagion stacks remain on enemies is going down from 20 seconds to 8. And finally, Heartwood Charm's active cooldown reduction after using a heal ability is going down from 10 seconds to 6. Kilgoon also mentioned that Typhon's Heart, Umbral Link, and Daybreak Gavel are currently on the team's radar for potential buffs, as they seem to be underperforming at the moment, but no actual changes to review just yet. They want to see how they perform after the OP items from the patch and nerf before they go buffing them. That's it for the hotfixes and potential balance changes though. Let's move into the Q&A section of the show. First up, someone asked if they will fix Bluestone of the issues of it not working, and Kilgoon said they have a fix internally for this that should be hitting servers pretty soon. For now though, you will just have to re-enter and leave the fountain again to fix it. There was a question on if they will continue these big sweeping kinds of changes once the game goes out of beta, and Kilgoon said it really depends. In theory, the game will have a much more solid foundation at that point that won't need as many major sweeping changes, but they wouldn't be afraid to do it if they felt it necessary, and they have done that in the past for Smite 1, but there probably will be less than we've seen during the alpha and beta phases. Someone asked for Janus teasers, and Kilgoon said not yet, we'll probably see more of those next week, but he did say that the aspect they were working on for him has been a bit more involved than they initially thought in terms of making it work, so they think potentially it won't ship in the same patch as Janus does, maybe the patch after. There were a few questions on the Agility Relic and if they have any changes planned for it, and they said they aren't fully sure yet as it is so early in the patch and they don't have a lot of solid data on it at the moment, but Kilgoon did say that it is very different to a traditional Relic and might need some adjustments going forward, but they want to see how counterplay emerges after people get used to playing with it. He also said some cleanup to the melee lunge probably needs to happen as well, which is sorely needed. It feels really bad sometimes, especially when clearing minion waves. Someone asked if they could bring back the the play as a god from X Pantheon daily quests, and Kilgoon said probably not, mainly due to there being some very small pantheons and non-Founders Edition owners might not even own a single god from that pantheon, and they don't want to have any daily quests that physically cannot be completed by certain players. They do want to make quests that feel more interesting than just win a game, but they also don't want them to be incredibly restrictive or even impossible to complete for some players. There were a few people in chat asking when we'll hear about the next 2 gods coming to the game, and Kilgoon said they'll most likely do that on Monday's show, since Wednesday next week will be the OB16 reveal with Janus, and they'll want to announce the next gods before they do OB16 PTS, where they usually get spoiled anyway. Someone asked why the titles given out for ranked were lower than the max rank they achieved, and Kilgoon said they were actually given out based on your ending rank for the split, not your highest rank, but they have gotten a lot of feedback that it should be your highest rank, so going forward they will probably do it that way. There was a question on if they could automatically kick people who haven't gained XP in a certain amount of time to prevent Fountain AFKers from denying surrender votes and holding you hostage, and Kilgoon said doing that in a live environment would probably be quite hard, so probably not, but they do have systems on the back end that can pretty easily detect that kind of thing and will raise flags for the team to look into and issue punishments for players doing this after the fact. Someone mentioned that a lot of the soft counter to healing items are for tanks and wondered if the team could maybe add or buff some DPS items to compensate, and as I said, they are keeping an eye on that and have heard the community feedback, but are waiting on more data to come in before making any major changes. There were some people in chat asking for updates on Slash, and Kilgoon said they aren't saying it will never come back, but it's just not a super high priority right now compared to updating the modes they already have in the game, given Slash's low popularity in Smite 1. He said they do hear Slash fans' concerns, but there are a lot of things in the game right now in regards to maps that take a higher priority. Someone asked if Smite follows the general trend of non-humanoid characters being dramatically less popular, and Kilgoon said yes, it does. Every god that is not some form of human is noticeably less popular. Ranked is impacted a little less by this due to meta and strength of gods having a larger impact there, but even in ranked, they generally see humanoid gods with higher play rates than monsters or animals. But they do feel like it's still important to have some level of diversity on the rosters, so they do still have the occasional non-humanoid release to balance things out, even when they know those gods will be inherently less popular and well-liked. This seems to also be somewhat true with how they balance popularity for god ports at the moment. They port mostly based on popularity in order to please the majority of players, but they do occasionally bring a less popular god like Kali or a Helix in order to please that smaller amount of players that really do like those designs. Someone asked if they plan to update the victory/defeat ending animations to make them feel more epic, and Kilgoon said it's not super high on their list of priorities right now, but they are aware that those could use a touch-up. There was a question on if they would increase the active item limit to 4 at any point, and Kilgoon said they can't really do that due to controller button limitations, as they are sort of out of buttons that they could bind an additional active item to at this point. That, and he also remembers them getting a lot of negative feedback when they had uncapped active items that the game could theoretically become really complex, even though no one ever actually bought more than 3 or 4 potential actives anyway. The idea that you could have a meta where 6 active item builds were a thing was scary enough to players that they felt like they had to cap it to 3. Someone asked if the next big item pass could be for starter items, and Isaiah said that it's definitely on the design team's radar right now, and they do know that starters could use some work. Kilgoon added that the next big design arc is probably going to be for improvements to Conquest, as they've been getting a lot of feedback at the moment from the community about that. Someone asked if they could bring back commendations, and Kilgoon said that is something that's on their radar, and they would like to change how it works a bit compared to Smite 1, where you would just commend everyone if you won and commend no one if you lost. They didn't really feel too special there, and he would prefer if commendations were less frequent but more impactful, so you would actually feel good when you get one. There was a question on if they could update the ranked borders every split instead of once per season, and Kilgoon said probably not, as it's more work than you might think to distribute those. And finally, somebody asked if they could let you see enemy health bars underneath their god portrait when you have vision of them, and Kilgoon said he'll take a note and pass that along to the team. It depends how much work it would be to get that done. But that's everything discussed on today's Titan Talk. Don't forget to drop a like before you leave, and I'll catch you guys for another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.